have now been attacked and occupied and destroyed. One of them was Libya. Another one is Syria. That's why they're going after it so hard right now. And another one is Iran. And so that's why Iran is always demonized. But essentially, what they're trying to do is, and you're seeing this now with the war on cash, they're trying to get cash out of the system. And because the system is so indebted now, and this was actually planned, they planned to create the system which impoverishes people so much and gets so much of the wealth into they say the 1%. People think it's the 1%. It's the 0.0001%. It's a very top financial elite that has all the money, literally trillions of dollars, the Rothschilds and people like them. And they're trying to get, they actually have this plan to essentially collapse the entire system so they can bring in a new system. This has been a long-term plan. It's been for decades and decades. And so now we're reaching near the end of that plan, and they've indebted the entire world so much, including every government. Every government is insolvent with debt if interest rates were to rise at all, because that's why they're trying to keep interest rates. And they've had the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates essentially at 0% for 8 years now. That is absolutely astonishing, but not surprising, because if they allow interest rates to rise, the U.S. government would very quickly be insolvent. With $19 trillion worth of debt, if they allow the interest rate to rise to 10%, which would be a very low level if they let it go to its natural level, that'd be almost $2 trillion per year in interest payments alone. Very quickly, the whole game would collapse, and they are trying to put that off a little bit longer. And what they're trying to do is get everyone into the banking system now. So that's why they're putting in things like SACA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. That's why every time you go to a bank anywhere in the world, you try to open an account. It's very difficult to do, and if you can, they're going to want to know every detail of your life. It's because it's all going into one central database now, and they want to essentially make it so no one can evade taxes. And in fact, that's what the whole Panama Papers leak was all about, was to try to make it look like all these people are evading taxes, therefore we need more controls, and essentially get everyone into a system where there is no privacy, no one can hide anything. The governments of the world know exactly where every penny you have is, and they control it because it's in the banking system. So that's essentially what the plan is, and they're doing it very quickly now. Now they're trying to do a war on cash, even Chase just put limits on ATM withdrawals the other day. You're seeing in Europe a lot of places just trying to get rid of cash completely, including Denmark and Sweden. They're almost cash-free already, getting everyone into the banking system. And then they're going to go even further in negative interest rates and really impoverish and really destroy everything. So that's why they're scared to death of Bitcoin, because if people know about Bitcoin and start getting into Bitcoin, they cannot control it. The only way that they could control Bitcoin is to turn off the internet or turn off the power. And those are actually options. That's why they keep mentioning the government internet kill switch, because they're considering that an option. If this thing gets too popular and they lose control of the money system, which is what they want, that is number one always to them, is that's how they control the governments and the world essentially, is by controlling the monetary system. They might even turn off the internet. So it's a very highly dangerous game they're playing, and most people don't even realize it. And so they're incredibly concerned about Bitcoin. So they're always trying to attack Bitcoin.
Jeff, I'd like to interrupt there just briefly.
Sure.
Could you just explain what it is that makes Bitcoin, which sits on a platform called blockchain technology, what makes it so incredibly not only powerful but almost impossible to police within a fixed regime, and therefore being peer to peer and global, and the only way they can stop it, because my opinion is it could or will revolutionize banking and transactions. But could you help explain that a little?
Yeah, absolutely. For people who don't know what Bitcoin is, you probably already stopped watching because you're probably already so confused. But it's quite simple. It's a new internet-based currency to explain it, it's sort of like what Napster was. So 10 years ago or 15 years ago, when people used to share music, there was something called Napster, and the government went after them as well. They don't want anything to be decentralized. They want everything to be in their control. And so essentially with Bitcoin, there is no Bitcoin office. There is no Bitcoin CEO. Completely decentralized. Bitcoin essentially exists on thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands, if not millions of computers around the world. So they'd have to turn off every computer that has any sort of Bitcoin server on it to get rid of Bitcoin, which is almost impossible unless they turn off the internet or turn off the power. And again, that is an option for them.
Two computers operating anywhere in the world that could commute, it would still be alive, right?
Yeah, technically it would. It's probably be very, very slow, but
If there was
uh,
anybody outside the banking system, which would have this system, it would circumvent the banking system. So they gotta get it all, they gotta get everything in the banking system before they can really implement what they wanna implement. And Bitcoin the technology destroys that possibility. Is that too simplistic?
no, that's essentially what it is. And so they're very highly concerned about it. Bitcoin could destroy the central banks, and the central banks are one of the worst things ever in human history. People don't even realize it's what's impoverished so many people. Every war has been backed by these central banks. They can't have these wars without the money printing of the central banks. I think it was Rothschild who said, "I care not who makes the laws as long as I control the money." Because once you control the money, if there is governments, and this goes to a whole other topic about should we even have governments? Governments, in my opinion, are an unnecessary evil and the worst thing to ever happen to mankind before central banks. But if you're going to have governments, you want to control the money supply. If you want to control the government, that's what they do. So that's what the Federal Reserve and all central banks do. The governments do not control the big decisions. It's the people behind the scenes who control the money, who tell the governments what they want done, and that's been going on for decades.
Why should people have confidence in Bitcoin or the technology that it's not fraudulent? Because obviously the central banks and regulators say this is you're exposed. You're going to find yourself ripped off, if I can use an expression like that. Why is that actually impossible to happen?
Well, the main reason is because Bitcoin is open source software. So there is no one place, there is no secret code on it. Anyone who wants to can look at the Bitcoin code. And of course, thousands of people have. I'm not a coder myself, but I know many people who I trust. I say, is there anything in this system that is nefarious or something that can be controlled or anything like that? And they all say no. So I trust them on that. If I really wanted to look into it, I'd become a coder and look into it. But you have a certain level of trust with certain people. But it is open source software. So essentially, there's nothing hidden in it, and it is all over the world. It's on so many computers that you can't stop it. So that's the real issue. What they're having is how to control it. There is, like I said, there is no Bitcoin CEO. That's how they would normally control things. If there was a person who ran Bitcoin, they would immediately go and arrest that person. You even saw that in Australia. A guy came out a few months ago, and one of many who said he's Satoshi Nakamoto, which is the we believe pseudonym for whoever first created it. And immediately the Australian police went to his house, raided it, and kidnapped him because they still these people aren't incredibly smart. Actually, it's kind of funny. They're not technologically super geniuses, the central bankers and all these people, and so they think, okay, oh, that's the guy. We'll go get him. We'll put him in jail, and then it's dead. They don't understand completely, but that's really what they would normally do. If someone was trying to compete with them, they would try to destroy them or arrest the CEO and put them in jail for life. But they can't do that with Bitcoin. There's no office to go to. That's another thing they would do is go in with SWAT teams and knock down the door and steal all the computers. They can't do that. You can't take a gun and destroy the computers and Bitcoin goes away. So that's why it scares them.
They can't really stop it because it's peer to peer globally. Maybe as badly and more frightening to them is they can't tax it. So suddenly, all transactions, there's no way they can regulate, control, or tax it, which is the central premise of what the banks really are about, right? Well, they're not tax, but charge it, to charge for it. And I think that's one of the points that Ambrose Evans was making. It will be a service for the bank. So in actual fact, they'll be able to charge for this instead of it being free, and the government will be able to tax it. That's what they're scared of. Is that too simplistic?
No, again, that's exactly what they're scared of. They want to control it, first of all, to control governments, and they want to be able to tax it, of course, which mostly goes into all their pockets again. And they also want to essentially be able to control it so they can decide. For example, the central banks, a lot of what they do is they control the economy because the economy is based on money. Every transaction is based on money. So when they affect the price of money, which is the interest rate, they can sway things in directions they want it to go. If they want a big stock market bubble, they can create one, which is, of course, if you have that power, you can make trillions and trillions of dollars. But it's actually not so much about the money with these people, it's about the power. They already have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. So it's clearly not just about the money, it's about the power. They want to control and enslave all of humanity. And that's why everyone out there should have end the Fed bumper stickers. They should, if you believe in government and care about government, you should call your Congress people and tell them to audit the Fed, end the Fed. You should go to protests. You should write online. You should look into it. Central banking is heinous evil in the world, and it needs to be stopped. But if we can't stop it, what we can do is create something new, and just that's what they say about. I don't call things like Bitcoin a revolution so much as an evolution. It's creating something that just circumvents the entire system completely, which is quite beautiful actually, because you can have a revolution, which is usually quite bloody and it's usually a lot of fighting, or you can have an evolution where you just go around and create something better and start using that. And that's really what Bitcoin is. It's a natural evolution in money. And you brought up earlier that a lot of people think it's risky or it could be fraudulent. I think the thing about fraudulent, I don't think that's justified at all. I can't find any way that that would be possible. It is risky though. It is only 7 or 8 years old now. It is a new technology. There is anything could happen. We've seen Bitcoin have problems. Almost every year it has a problem. Almost every time it gets worked out, though, amongst the entire global community, which is beautiful. That's actual real democracy in action. That's actual human action fixing things, as opposed to waiting for a real secretive central banker in a boardroom behind closed doors making decisions about what happens. The people actually get to decide what happens and what they want to use. So it's very interesting times.
And you make a really good point in terms of government centralizing everything. Here we are living in a world where everything's decentralized. That get the decision making to the lowest, get it involved. We have the technology with the internet. I mean, business has been doing that for 25 years, et cetera. Then we got the government trying to centralize it. Well, technology is changing that, and we've seen it in all sorts of cab drivers booking hotel rooms. And now the technology is even going to change the way we do central banking, the way we do transactions, and possibly the way we even govern ourselves. Instead of it being a pyramid with command and control, it can actually be the other way around, where it comes from the source. So this, and I'm not trying to get too academic here. This is profound. It's more than banking. There's more than just transactions. There's the whole basis of which you could even be governed if you can start to get everybody involved through, well, I'm going to use the word internet. Is that a possibility? Is that the kind of thing that's frightening them right now?
I don't think they've fully realized that's a risk yet. That they're always behind the curve on these things, but once they realize that, they're really going to get scared. This technology, this blockchain type technology, could change everything. And you pointed out everything is changing so fast. If you really think about it, 15 years ago, there was no Google, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was no smartphones, and all within the last 10 or 15 years, the biggest hotel company in the world owns no hotels, Airbnb. The biggest taxi company in the world has no taxis, Uber. You just look at almost anything like that. This is changing rapidly, and this has now come to money. And money, of course, is so important. And if, for anyone out there, if you haven't used Bitcoin, just start using Bitcoin. There's not one person I know who hasn't used Bitcoin, and as soon as they use it, they go, wow, this changes everything. As soon as you realize you can, for example, if you were sitting here right with me right now and you hadn't used Bitcoin right now, I'd say go to this website. I'd say click a button. Okay, now you have a Bitcoin account. What's your number? And you'd send it to me, and I go, okay, I just sent you Bitcoin. You'd have like some Bitcoin in your account. It'd be 1 second. It could be a little longer, but it'd be very quick. And the person would be like, wow, and I'd say go buy something, and they'd say where? I'd say almost anywhere now, and there's many different ways to buy almost anything with Bitcoin now. So you literally could, and this person could be in China. So the person could be in China right now, and within a few seconds, I could send them money, and they could already be buying stuff, and no one would be able to stop that transaction. We could be doing $1 million or $1 billion as well. So this is a very changing technology, and as you pointed out, Gordon, it goes way beyond just money. Money is important enough. This could be where everything is based, and there's so much innovation going on right now. There's a company called BitNation, for example, and they're trying to essentially put governance on the blockchain. So all contracts, all property deeds, everything would be on the blockchain. They're actually starting in Africa because many of these countries never had a sort of a system of private property in a way to have a good system to tell who owns what. Problems for so many years or even centuries. But they're trying to put that into place, and if people start using these sort of systems very quickly, there becomes really no need for government whatsoever. I think there's no need for it now, but for people who think there is some need for it still, contracts and adjudication and things like that, that can all be taken out by these blockchain technologies. So That's why you're seeing billions of dollars actually going into this right now. Many people don't realize it. This is sort of where the internet was in 1994, is where Bitcoin is in 2015, 2016. And I was there for the start of the internet, so I remember it's very similar. Your average person still doesn't know what a big deal is going on behind the scenes, but this is going to revolutionize the world. It's not just going to be Bitcoin. In fact, who knows about Bitcoin? It could be gone in a couple of years because the innovation is happening so fast. And there's going to be so many things built on top of this technology that it's going to change the world.
You know, and Jeff, I come from a technology background, and there's been probably 4 or 5 times in my career where I've seen something and it's just my jaw dropped and I said, this is significant. I saw it when I saw a relational database. Before there was such a thing as database, I saw it when I discovered the algorithms that subsequently became Google. That type of approach to being able to do search, which I found absolutely stunning. I found it when I was living in Europe at CERN, when it subsequently became the internet. And the last time next and the last time I saw it, when I discovered blockchain technology. And of the four, this is the biggest. This is the one that has the most profound. The others were technology. This one transcends so many different areas. I had Reggie Middleton on, who basically gave up being in the financial business to go out and start a company called Verisasium based on the blockchain technology because he thinks it'll revolutionize transactions, contracts. And we're not even talking about the banking system here. So, and as you said, I'm sure that is flowing now into investments, but it's getting hardly any press in terms of the amount of investment. But back
To the article, if I could, just to finish up there, what was it that Ambrose Evans Pritchard got wrong? What did he miss blatantly? Or what was the propaganda that he was handed? Did it miss?
Well, essentially, the article is saying that this new coin, RS coin, very creatively named, these people who run the central banks and control the central banks are not very creative. That's essentially they're always just trying to copy what creative people have done, what he's saying is that this is going to, Bitcoin has failed and this is going to take over, and that is absolutely not true. Having been in Bitcoin since 2011, I've heard almost every 3 months that Bitcoin is dead. And every time I buy more, and that's been doing quite well, from $3 up to about $420 today. And he's saying this is going to be so much better. I actually think RS Coin will actually do well. I think it will go out, and a lot of people will start using it. I think, and when I say well, I mean it'll be used, and actually it'll be sort of the basis. They're going to get rid of fiat cash, and they're going to make this essentially the new fiat currency, but it's all going to be crypto, so they can even track it even more. That's what they want. And so they're going to put this in, and this will probably be the new currency, essentially. So it will do well in that respect. It will be used probably by millions, if not billions of people, unfortunately, until they realize what a scam it is. Essentially, it will probably do well. But to say that it beats Bitcoin in its own game is a joke, because it has nothing. It beats Bitcoin in no way at all. And one of the things that I really laughed at was that he said, that about Bitcoin, he said, such a currency transfer, or sorry, let me read this. Such a currency transfers control of money creation from private banks to the state. Arguably, this would make the financial system safer cycles. So what he's saying here is that this new RS coin is really good because it's going to give the government or the
Central bank more control of the money system, which will make the system safer and less prone to boom bust cycles, which of course we know that's the whole reason we have boom bust cycles, and that's the whole reason it's not safe, is because the government and the central banks have controlled the money and controlled the interest rates, and they continually create these booms and busts, and that's what makes Bitcoin so great. So either Ambrose, or whatever he calls himself, Ambrose Evans Pritchard, is just not very smart about these things, or he's just helping them, or he's sold out to them. It's one or the other. And Ambrose, if you're watching this, why don't you tell us? Do you not know what you're talking about, or did you sell out?
Let's hope he's watching, because I'd love to hear the response there.
I don't think you're going to hear a response. I didn't give him a good answer that he can come back with.
Jeff, invest